What if the roots you throw away could grow into something beautiful? This is Nailed It Now, where trash becomes treasure and small spaces bloom with big ideas. Today's project? Turning old roots, logs, and tires into magical DIY decor for tiny patios and gardens. All images here are just inspiration, not perfect plans, just starting points. Use what you have, create what you love. And if this moved you even just a little, subscribing isn't just helping creator. It's keeping a family's dream alive, one honest click at a time. Thanks for seeing me. Thanks for staying. Beneath the rustling leaves and dappled morning light, something magical takes root, quite literally. What was once a forgotten tree stump, tangled deep in the earth, now rises in quiet elegance as the heart of a tiny patio. Its roots, twisted and raw, tell a story of endurance, of holding on through rain, drought, and time. And now, polished gently by hand, it becomes a coffee table that invites not just mugs and books, but memories and moments. Imagine sitting here. The breeze carries the scent of rosemary, a glass of tea catches the sun, and the rich textures that would seem to hum with life. This isn't furniture. It's soul work. Crafting a root table doesn't demand carpentry mastery. Just patience, care, and a good eye. You don't even have to remove all the roughness. In fact, the more natural it stays, the more character it brings. Sand the surface just enough to smooth the edges. Let the wild shape stay wild. Add a piece of round glass on top to make it functional without losing its charm. For small patios, this becomes more than decor. It anchors the space. It becomes a quiet gathering spot, a place to reflect or reconnect. And the beauty? No two are ever the same. Let your hands bring out the hidden poetry inside the roots. And perhaps, in doing so, you'll find pieces of yourself growing too. Sometimes, all it takes is a forgotten piece of wood to turn a blank garden wall into a living gallery of stories. Here, these humble tree logs, aged by rain, carved by time, find a new rhythm on the garden wall. Their rings hold whispers of old seasons, and now they carry tiny pots of rosemary, lavender, and morning blooms. Not just shelves, they're platforms of memory, of nature honored. If you look closer, the cracks in the bark are not flaws, but poetry, each one holding the soft shimmer of early sun or the cool kiss of twilight. This idea asks very little. Just a few sturdy cuts, secure screws, and a gentle hand to sand where needed. No need for perfection. The more uneven, the more beautiful. Line them up like music notes or stagger them like leaves in the breeze. Let your imagination guide their arrangement. And when your favorite cup of mint or a tiny bird figurine find a place there, it won't just be decor. It will be soul. Something living, breathing, grounded. A wall can be more than a boundary. With a few tree logs and your quiet intention, it can become a frame for life, light, and the delicate dance between nature and home. There's something comforting about circles. They remind us of wholeness, of things that come full circle, like old tires, once meant to carry us forward, now becoming places for us to rest. In this quiet garden corner or sunny little patio, these recycled tire lounge chairs wait, not for speed, but for stillness. Each one, painted in soft hues or bold summer tones, cradles thick cushions that invite your body to settle and your mind to slow down. A cup of tea, a favorite book, a conversation at sunset, all begin here. Creating them doesn't require a workshop or power tools. Just vision. Clean the tires, coat them the color of your mood, stack and secure them well. And then let softness meet strength. Layer foam. Wrap it in fabric that sings your personality. And suddenly, you built something beautiful with your own hands. These chairs aren't just seating, they're an embrace. A second life for something forgotten. A statement of care, not just for comfort, but for the planet. And perhaps, when you sit here surrounded by fresh blooms, feeling ground beneath you and the sky above, you'll understand sustainability isn't always loud. Sometimes it looks like a simple circle, softly painted, carefully made, and deeply lived. Every root tells a story, not just of trees, but of time, resilience, and the quiet art of holding on. In this little garden space, what once reached deep into the earth now rises gently above it. A tangled ancient root, rough around the edges and rich in texture, becomes a cradle for life once more. Its crevices, like natural pockets, are filled with soil and seeds, and from them, blossoms emerge. Lavender sways gently, marigolds beam toward the sun, and tiny white daisies to seem like nature's confetti. There's no symmetry here, no polished finish. But that's the beauty. These root planters invite you to work with nature, not against it. You don't need to carve or reshape much. Let the natural bends hold the soil. Let moss return where it wishes. Let the cracks gather stories, not dust. And if you're wondering, yes, this is something you can do. A root from a fallen tree, clean and propped, can turn into a living sculpture. Add a little compost, nestle in your favorite blooms, and watch the wildness bloom with grace. Because sometimes the best planters aren't built. They're remembered, rediscovered, and when placed with love in your tiny backyard or on the edge of a patio, they speak softly of rebirth and remind us that beauty often grows where we least expect it. A path doesn't just take you somewhere. It sets the rhythm of your garden, defines its breath, and invites you to slow down. Here, the journey begins not with stone or brick, but with something far more alive. The old trunks of trees, now repurposed to guide each step. Their rings, once counting years in silence, now become markers of beauty that gently frame a quiet gravel trail to the heart of a tiny yard. Each cut of wood is different. Some are thick, others narrow. Some are smooth, others full of texture and time. And that's what makes them perfect. They don't shout for attention. They whisper softly that nature is enough. With a little sanding and perhaps a sealant for longevity, these log slices or upright segments can line your walkway like a rustic fence laid flat, breathing charm into every footstep. You don't need a large space. Even a few meters of soil or gravel can transform when edged with real wood. Let moss settle in. Let ground cover spill over the sides. Let leaves fall and stay a while. And as you walk this path, whether barefoot or with boots damp from watering, remember that you're not just stepping over ground. You're walking a story, one made not by machines but by hands and roots, and a kind of beauty that only grows from stillness. Sometimes a fence doesn't just divide, it frames, it softens, it welcomes. In this little corner of the garden, logs once fallen and forgotten now rise again, stacked uneven, beautiful in their imperfection. Each one carries a memory of forests past, their bark still textured with time. But the magic truly begins when nature takes the lead. Vines, gentle, persistent, climb through the spaces between logs. Ivy curls like handwritten letters. Morning glory blooms in surprise each dawn. Jasmine releases its scent with the evening air. Together, they turn what might have been just a barrier into a living wall that breathes. Creating a fence like this isn't about precision. It's about patience and presence. Stack logs by size or feel. Let gaps happen. Let light peek through. Let green tendrils choose their way. Over time, the vines will fill the silence with soft movement and slow beauty. You don't need acres. Even in a tiny backyard or narrow patio edge, this fence becomes a vertical garden, a privacy screen, a conversation with the wild. It whispers of woodland trails, of childhood forts, of something deeply rooted yet free. And perhaps one day, as you sip your tea nearby and a vine brushes your shoulder, you'll smile, knowing this fence wasn't just built. It grew. Some walls are meant to bloom. What once carried the weight of journeys now carries life. Tires retired from the road, reborn on fences. Hung like floating frames on wooden walls, they hold more than soil. They hold color, softness, and a bit of joy where once there was only shadow. In this tiny backyard or narrow side path, each tire becomes a surprise. One bursts with purple petunias, tumbling like a waterfall. Another cradles herbs. Mint, thyme, maybe rosemary, brushing fragrance into the air as you pass. And another wraps its flowers like a wreath, as if the wall itself were celebrating the season. Making them is simpler than it looks. A little soap and water brings back their form. Paint them in your favorite palette, pastel for calm, bold for cheer, or leave them raw and rugged. Hang them like art. Fill their centers with burlap or cocoa liners, then add compost, roots, and dreams. These planters don't take space. They create it. They draw the eye upward. They turn empty fences into living mosaics, telling stories in petals and leaves. And perhaps the best part, they teach us that beauty doesn't need perfection. Just purpose, just care, just a little willingness to look at something old and see something new. Some branches never stop giving, even after they fall. In quiet corners where sunlight gently brushes old brick or wooden fences, these tree limbs now hold more than just memories. Suspended on walls or tied softly with rope, they float, like lines from a poem, carrying pots of herbs, little candles, or even an old birdhouse waiting to be noticed. This isn't about perfection. It's about presence. The natural curve of each branch becomes part of the design. The knots, the splits, the rough edges, all welcome here. Sand them lightly if you must. Seal them if you wish. But let them speak. Mounted on garden walls, these branches create shelves that don't scream utility. They sing serenity. A single teacup and notebook resting on one can feel like a scene from a quiet afternoon. A flower pot on another can soften a hard fence into something tender and alive. You don't need a blueprint. You only need to look at what you already have. A leftover limb from a pruning day, a rope tucked away in the shed, a few screws, and a little trust in your own hands. And when you hang them, you'll see something once fallen has found its place again. Because in these small, thoughtful gestures, we learn that nature never ends. It simply changes form and waits for us to notice. Some places are not meant to be loud. They're meant to hold stillness. Beneath the gentle shade of a young tree, a bench made from twisted roots invites you to sit. Not just with your body, but with your breath. This isn't furniture. It's sculpture carved by time. You won't find symmetry here. No sharp lines. No perfect finish. Only the kind of beauty that grows slowly, beneath the soil, hidden until it's found. The roots curve like arms once buried deep, now rise and support rest. Polished only where needed, still rough in places. They whisper stories of forests long past. And now, they offer you a place to pause. A quiet retreat in your own backyard, where the world narrows down to leave shadows, birdsong, and breeze. Making one of these benches may take patience, but not perfection. Start with a large root or stump, brush off the soil, and see where the form leads you. You don't force it. You follow it. Smooth the seat. Leave the wildness. Place it beneath your favorite tree, maybe a fig or a jacaranda, or something you planted with your own hands. And when it's done, you'll have more than a bench. You'll have a moment, a place where tea tastes better, silence sounds fuller, and everything, even time, seems to slow just a little. Sometimes, all you need to transform a space is a circle. Paint it with love and soften with care. These tire ottomans didn't come from a store. They came from somewhere deeper, a desire to turn what's forgotten into something beautiful, something useful. Once they rolled along busy roads, now they sit quietly under a tree on a patio or in a shaded corner, offering rest. With just a few strokes of paint, a splash of imagination, and a fabric cushion, or a wooden top, a tire becomes an ottoman, or a table, or both. Soft pastels bring calm. Bright colors bring joy. You get to choose the story they tell. You don't need a workshop. Just a clean tire, outdoor paint, and something for the top. Maybe a board, maybe a cushion, maybe something you already have. The rest is up to you. Place one beside your garden chair, and it becomes a side table for your morning coffee. Add another, and suddenly you have extra seating when friends visit. Stack two, and you made a small centerpiece for candles and books. And the best part? These ottomans don't just fill a space, they warm it. They carry a spirit of resourcefulness, of gentle creativity. They remind us that comfort doesn't have to come from something new, only something made with care. So paint them bold, paint them soft, but above all, paint them with heart. There's a certain kind of magic that only appears after sunset. Not loud, not grand, but quiet, golden, and alive. In the gentle hush of evening, as the sky deepens to twilight, a row of humble logs along your garden path begins to glow. Not with fire, but with light. Tiny fairy lights wrapped around each piece like whispered stories from the earth. The logs, once rough and forgotten, now cradle warmth. They guide your steps. They frame your plants. They invite stillness. This idea is simple but deeply charming. Small logs, cut evenly or left wild, place along your garden edge or flower beds. Between them, soft strand of light, battery-powered or solar, threaded loosely, never forced. And as the sun dips lower, something shifts. The garden changes. It begins to hum. The light doesn't need to be bright. In fact, the softer, the better. Let the glow spill onto gravel paths. Let it touch the petals of marigolds and the edges of ivy. Add a lantern or two if you wish, but even without, the atmosphere will bloom on its own. This isn't just about illumination. It's about invitation. A signal that the garden is still awake, even after the day ends. A reminder that beauty doesn't stop when darkness comes. It simply changes form. So if you've ever wished your tiny yard could feel a little more alive at night, try this. It may surprise you how much light lives in something so small. In the quiet corners of backyard, the space is too small for furniture, too shaded for flower beds. There's room for something much more timeless. A tire swing, not just a plaything, but a memory waiting to happen. Suspended by rope, it sways with the wind, with laughter, with the weight of someone pausing between joy and stillness. It's a small invitation to feel light again. You don't need a large tree or acres of lawn. A sturdy branch, a pergola beam, or a wooden frame is more than enough. Clean the tire, paint it if you like, soft pastels for charm, deep tones for contrast. Add a cushion, a plank across, or simply leave the hollow ring as is. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be safe and full of heart. The best part? It transforms forgotten corners into places where something happens, where a child spins and giggles, where someone reads with their feet off the ground, where quiet becomes a companion. And as evening settles and fairy lights glow above it, the swing becomes more than a seat. It becomes a feeling, a slow breath, a whisper of freedom in the middle of your little world. So if you've ever stood in a narrow patch of your yard and wondered what could become, try hanging a tire. You might find it lifts more than just people. It lifts the entire mood of a place.